Hey, this is Andy Brown, and welcome to another video. In this one, we are going to create an S3 bucket, and we are going to use that using Terraform. So that's all we want to accomplish in this video. After we're done this video, we want to then set up our remote state. So what we're going to do here is we are going to make our way over to issues. We're going to create a new issue, and we're going to just say Terraform or simple S3 bucket for Terraform. So we're going to define an S3 bucket in Terraform. We are going to use the random resource string for the name. We are going to observe local, I guess we have to configure or install the AWS provider, Terraform provider, and we'll have to configure AWS to work, or we'll have to configure the AWS provider. So a few simple things here. We'll go ahead and create this new ticket, and of course my head's in the way. We'll move out of the way, create that branch down below, hit create branch, and I'm going to bring my head back into a place here, and we'll go back over here. And we'll drop down and we'll go and launch this ticket number and launch that up. So we'll launch that up. Let's just talk about what we're going to do. S3 is for the most part, free-ish service, at least the way we're going to use it. So the way we'll find that is type in S3 at the top, and we'll go to S3. S3 is object storage. If you've seen Dropbox or other things, you basically create a bucket, you throw things in it, you can access it on the cloud. Is kind of the idea of what that is. So all we're doing is we're creating a bucket. We're going to give it a name. We have to determine its region, and that's it. Very, very, very simple. So the way we're going to do that over here is we'll go into our main TF. Okay. And I don't know why the highlighting isn't showing up here. So it's really nice to have syntax highlighting. The way we get that is on the left-hand side if I go to extensions. And sometimes it doesn't work here. I'm not sure why. Like you can see that it is installed here. And sometimes Gitpod in the browser or VS Code in the browser does not like to color. I like to have colors. And the way we can work around that is we can launch this in VS Code. So if we go to the top here, you have to have VS Code installed locally on your machine. But what I can do is I can open this in VS Code down below here. So let me give that a go, okay? Let's see what happens. So we have that, we'll hit open. And we'll just wait a moment. VS Code is opening on one of my other screens here. And so I'm just giving it a moment to load. So it's opened down here. So I'm gonna try that again and see what happens. It says stop. Oh, it's still thinking maybe? Did it work? Let's try that one more time. Open in VS Code. Open in VS Code here. Okay, and so now it's, hold on here. I just want to show you what it's doing. So I'm gonna, I'm just trying to show you at the same time here. If I go in open in VS Code, it'll say open there. It says, extension Gitpod is not installed. Would you like to install it? Yes, please. And if this doesn't work, you can just keep in Gitpod here. Sometimes it doesn't work for whatever reason. But it installs this tool here. And I'm still waiting to see if it opens. Yeah, allow. Yep. Yeah, open. Open again. Open again. You can do it. It's connecting here. You don't have a registered SSH key. Alternatively, copy and use this temporary password until the workspace. Copy, I guess. And because I'm on Windows, if you're on Mac, it's a little bit easier. I'm going to open up Notepad. I'm just going to paste this temporarily. I'm pasting off screen so you can't see it, but it's just like here. And did that work? It didn't. Okay. I'm just going to keep it simple. I mean, I could fiddle with it and get it to work, but oh, there we go. Now the highlighting's showing up. So sometimes you have to wait a while and it shows up. So maybe that was what we just had to do, be a little bit patient. But anyway, you can open Gitpod up there, and you can do a lot more if you do that, but it didn't work for me here today. Anyway, down below here, we have this get caller identity issue. That's because I rotated out my keys. So what I'm going to have to do is set those again. So we'll do that over in AWS. We'll go over to IAM, right? Just going to show you this again so that we get in the habit of knowing where it is. We'll go over to users. I created a user called Terraform Beginner Bootcamp. Yours could be named after you, whatever that is. And then over here, I'm going to go to security groups. I'm going to go ahead and generate new access keys. Choose this option here. Say, I understand. Go next. Create the access key. There's my two values. We want to set those values. In our ENV example, we have them here. I'm going to go ahead and copy them. I'm going to go and paste them in here. Here's my first one. I'll paste that in. Here's my second one. I'll paste that in. If you want to operate in a different region, change where it is. The most common one is US East 1. Okay. The region we know is up here. So US East 1 is the main one. If you're in Europe, you probably want to use one in Europe. If you're in India, use the one in India because there's latency and it sucks when you are dealing with regions that are far away. But different regions can have different restrictions, so there's also that issue. So we have two things we want to set. So I want to technically set this twice here. So that should be good. I'll just copy all of that and just bring this on over here like this. I'm gonna shrink my head a little bit here so you can see what's going on. I'm going to go to the AWS CLI tab. I'm going to paste this in, hit enter. Okay, I do not want to commit this. I'm just going to delete that out and save that. The thing is that, remember I said this earlier, that this one's not going to know about that. I'm just going to undo that for 2 seconds because I have a feeling that when we run it over here, it's not going to know. So we're going to type in AWS here and make sure that it works. There we go. So we can see AWS, we can do S3LS, make sure we can list our buckets. Here I have some buckets. Okay, you can try that as well if you'd like. You should not have anything in your list. But what I want to do, so yeah, if this works, if you can do AWS STS, we'll just do this again. Get caller identity, and it returns back who you think you should be, which is me, then you're in good shape. So, again, I want to be very careful that we do not leave these. So do not commit these to your repo. Let's not forget that, okay? But I'm going to leave it open because I need to check this later on. So we'll go over to our main TF, and we need to figure out how to add an S3 bucket. So we'll go over to Terraform registry, and we'll go to providers, and we'll go over to AWS, and we'll go into documentation. All the providers are like this. And if we know what we're looking for, it's going to be S3. So we scroll on down and look for S3. S3. And we'll go to simple storage here. And we have a bunch of options. So, you know, they're not exactly the same as CloudFormation. So I just want to talk about something here. Normally in AWS, you use something called CloudFormation. CloudFormation S3. Okay. And so this is AWS's native tool for creating infrastructure as a code, and normally you would write something like this, okay? And so they call it AWS S3 bucket. And sometimes these names, for the most part, match, and sometimes they don't. But if this is called AWS S3 bucket, well, you know this resource should be called AWS S3 bucket. It's not always the case there, but for the most part, Terraform does match it up. So I'm just saying that, you know, if you're trying to map, if you know this really well, CloudFormation, and you're trying to map it over to Terraform, just understand there could be a little bit of variance, okay? Anyway, we'll go over here, and what we'll do is scroll on down, and here we have our simple example. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this, and I'm going to bring this on over, and we're going to place this right here, okay? We're going to set up our first S3 bucket. Now, bucket names in S3 are like domain names. So bucket names must be unique within the global namespace. So in the entire world, you cannot have a name that matches someone else. There are some rules for naming buckets. They must be between 3 and 63 characters. They cannot consist, names can consist of only lower letters, numbers, and dots and hyphens. Bucket names must begin and end with letters or numbers. Buckets names must not contain two adjacent periods. There's a lot of restrictions on here, okay? So just understand that it has to be like a domain name because it's literally going to generate out a subdomain for you to use. So whatever you can use as a subdomain, you can pretty much use for naming. So, we can name it this way, but I think I would prefer to use the random bucket. Now, this resource is not going to work because we've yet to install the Terraform provider. I want you to comment that out for the moment. Okay. And we're going to bring this on open here. I want you to type in clear, and we're going to do Terraform init because we don't have that .terraform folder. That's going to set up this project. We know that our Terraform apply works. So I want you to do Terraform apply -- auto approve. And what that's going to do is generate out this stuff here. Okay. And now we have this bucket name. And I just want to see, is this bucket name valid? So we have letters, some are uppercase, things like that. We'll go over here. Let's go back to those rules. And it says bucket names consist only of lower letters and things like that. So I think this name is going to fail, and that's totally fine. But I want to purposely cause things to fail here to show you what they look like. So the first thing I want to do is I want to define this bucket. We haven't put the provider yet in, so we're going to have an error. I'm going to take out these tags for now. We don't need those. And we want to use this random string. So the way we can do that is we will just type in random string bucket name, and we'll use result because that will work. Okay, and so what I want to do is type in clear, and we're going to type in, clear, and just bump this up a little bit, and we're going to type in Terraform. Notice like it never types on the same line. Terraform plan. And so we have a few little issues here. It's going to tell us the following dependency selections recorded in the lock file are inconsistent with the current provider. Required by this configuration, but no version is selected. To update the lock dependency selections to match a changed version, do Terraform init upgrade. Now, we have not specified any provider in here. If we run this is not going to do anything. So we need to insert the provider here. We'll go back over to here. The easiest way is we'll click on providers, go to AWS, go to use provider, and on the right-hand side, we have our code. So copy that in. Okay, and we'll paste it in. Now, we have a problem here, and it might not be obvious to you, but here's the question. Are we allowed to do this twice? Can we have Terraform provider here and Terraform provider twice? Is that possible? Let's go find out. I already know the answer, but let's go see. Terraform plan, duplicate required providers. So a module may only have one required provider's configuration. What they're saying here is you can't have this here twice. I don't know if we can have this twice, but we definitely can't have this twice. So what we'll do is copy this here, paste that there. Okay. And I can't remember if that's an exam question, but that's something you should know, is that you should only have a single Terraform block, a single required provider block. A block is anytime we have something here and it has a curly and a curly because it's blocking a part of data, if that makes sense. So we have random in AWS. And so now we should be able to use this, right? So we'll type in Terraform plan. And it says inconsistent dependency lock file. So the reason it's saying that is anytime you add a new provider, right, and you look into here, it does not have this binary for AWS because it hasn't downloaded. If you go in the lock file, it's saying we don't have AWS in here. And so for it to know, you need to run Terraform init again, or they say Terraform init upgrade. Now, I think if we run Terraform init, it's going to do the upgrade anyway, so you don't really have to put this flag here. We'll hit enter. And so if we go here and double check, did it pull the other one? Matching, installing AWS, so we'll maybe refresh that. There we go. Now they're both in here. So now we're in better shape. So this should work. Okay, so we'll type in Terraform update, or sorry, Terraform plan, and now we'll see what happens. Okay, and so this is now ready to create that Terraform plan. Now, I want to point out that we've been doing this over here on AWS CLI, but I just want to clear this out because this is the tab that actually says Terraform is installed, and I want to see what happens if we use it here. So we type in Terraform plan, see what happens. Notice we get an error. We didn't get an error running it here, but we got an error there, and it says Terraform encountered an error while generating this plan. The validating provider credentials retrieving caller identity from STS. Remember that call we did before, AWS STS get caller identity? Says it failed. Why did it fail? Let's test it. AWS STS, we'll hit enter here. It doesn't even know what AWS, STS call is here. We'll type in AWS STS get caller identity. Hit enter. It says invalid client token ID when calling the get caller identity. The security token included is the request is invalid. What is it talking about? We set these values. They're right here. So what we're going to do is look at our environment variables. When the provider is not working, it's probably the configuration. So we'll type here and type in AWS. We do have some values here, okay, but notice what they look like, SMTQT GK+. All right, let's go over to this tab and we'll try it again. We'll say env grep AWS. SIA0W. Notice that they're different, right? So what's going on here? Well, when we copied this into here, it's exported them for only this environment. And then these ones set it in the Git pod secrets. So the next time we open all of Git pod, that they'll be set here. And these ones are using the old ones that I expired from the last video. So our problem is that we have to run this export here as well for it to have context. But before we do that, let's just talk about how do these environment variables, this stuff here, actually make it to the AWS provider. And the way that works is through the configuration. So let's go back over to Terraform provider, and we'll go to documentation. And if we look here, it's usually on the first page, I noticed. It will tell us how to configure it. So authentication and configuration, that's what we want. And so the first way to do it is to provide them directly, right? So if we wanted to, and this is not recommended, notice here it says, do not do this, but the way you could do it, and there is a case where you can do it, but mostly you can't. But what it's suggesting is we go here, and we go into the AWS provider here, and we are to say things like this: region, access key, access secret, right? So if we did this, okay, CA Central, whoops. Do this, I don't know, it's in the other order here, but we'll do it anyway, even though it's not the right way. Oops. Okay, and we'll bring this one over here. And we'll bring this one over here. And we'll bring this one over here. Okay, and I think it wants double quotations because it doesn't like singles. Some languages like both, some like singles, some like doubles, some like singles and doubles. Terraform just likes doubles for their strings. So if we do this and we try it, so Terraform plan, it should now make a plan. See what happens. There we go. So now it's saying, hey, we should be able to create that AWS resource. But you don't want to do this because if you did, right, you'd be committing this code to your repo, and that would be a big, big no-no. So what we're going to do is just remove that stuff out. And for this context here, what we're going to do is just copy these three here. We don't need this one. We've already set it. And we'll hit enter. Okay. And now we'll type in clear. Notice that they're not set here. And so if we go back over here to the documentation, it says up here that it will first use the parameters and then it will use environment variables. So if we go down here, it should say somewhere here, environment variables. Yeah, so credentials can be provided by using the AWS access key ID, AWS secret access key, and etc. So if you were to set these, it will know about it. There's a lot of ways to set it, but that's the way we're going to do it. That's the way we're going to do it when we use Terraform Cloud later on. So hopefully that makes sense, that these are being loaded in the background underneath. by the Terraform provider. But anyway, so these are set, and so we should, again, we'll just type in Terraform plan and see if that works. Okay, and so what it's saying, it's going to name the bucket this. Now, according to S3, we should not be able to use uppercase characters. Will it let us? I don't know, but we'll find out. And so what's interesting is the plan has no idea that this is an invalid name. All it knows is that it took a string, but it's not smart enough to know that this is possibly invalid. And so you have to understand that you can have a plan and it might fail if you don't fully understand the limitations or restrictions of it. Okay, so what we're going to do is type in clear. And what I want to do now is do Terraform apply and see if it works. I expect it to fail. And so we'll say yes, let's go ahead and do that. And we'll see what happens. And we have an error validating the S3 bucket. Only lowercase alphanumeric characters and hyphens allowed. Okay, so there is our issue. It did not generate well, it might have done a TF state from before. If we go here and we check it, it doesn't have in here the bucket because it hasn't changed anything because it failed, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to see if we can fix our random string. So we'll go back over to its documentation. What I like to do, because sometimes it's a headache knowing where this stuff is, I like to go find these references here and I like to paste them in. So this is the first one I want to paste in here. So we'll go here and we'll paste this in, which is, whoops, this will be bucket naming rules. And then here we have this AWS S3 bucket. We'll go and find that. So this will be S3. And that will be here. And we'll go ahead and grab that. And we will paste this above. Okay. And now we have that. By the way, when these are here, notice that they're hyperlinked. If I hold Control on my keyboard, they turn into a link and I can click them. And that's why I like to have those there. We have this random string. So let's go find that. We'll look for the random HashiCorp provider. And we'll go into the documentation here. We're going to go to resources, random string. We're going to copy the link over here. And we're going to, whoops, we're going to paste this above. Okay. And so we have 16 and special. Let's see what we can do to limit this. We'll scroll on down below here. Whoops, not this page. But we don't want to have any uppercase. So include lowercase alphabet in the result true. So this is by default true. We can set this explicitly if we want. So we'll just do this. Lower equals true. We don't want upper. Upper. So we'll say upper equals false. I'm not sure. Let's see. What else does this do here? Did this generate out numbers in here? Yeah, it has numbers. I don't know if it would start with a number. That could be an issue. Min numeric. So I don't know if it would start with a number. That could be an issue that it could do. So just so that we can avoid some issues, what I would like to do is I want to use, I want this string to always have some extra characters that I can control in front of it. That way we'll avoid having it starting with a number, which it might complain about. I can't remember if that's a problem. Let's go take a look here. Can it start with a number? Must begin and end with a letter. Bucket names must begin and end with a letter or number. Okay, so that doesn't matter. We're not actually going to do that. That's totally fine here. So I think that this will resolve our issue. 16 seems okay here. We'll go down below here. We'll type in clear. Whoops, clear. What's the longest we can have for this, by the way? It says for this, because maybe we should just max it out for randomness. Click on this here. 63 characters. So I'll make it a little bit longer. I'll just say 32 characters. I know it's overkill, but you know, I just want to make sure we don't have any conflicts with anybody. And so what we're going to do is see if that resolves our issue. So we'll type in Terraform plan. And by the way, we can also type in validate if we want to validate the syntax of our code. We'll talk about that later, but we'll do Terraform plan now. Every time you do validate plan, it runs a validate anyway. We'll go ahead and run that. And we will bring this up. And we can see there is a little bit stuff that is different. So notice here that's saying replace. So this is something you're going to start noticing is that some things will get updated, some things will get replaced. Replace means it will totally destroy it and remake it. That could be an issue if, let's say, you are running a production server and you don't want that server to ever go down. You don't want it to be replaced. So you just have to be aware of possible downtime or those kind of changes. But anyway, so that is what it's going to do. And so let's go ahead and type in Terraform, apply, see if that works. And did that, oh, so it doesn't know what it's going to be until we change it. So we'll say yes. And by the way, this name is only ever going to change when it's first created or if we change those values. So we don't have to worry about this changing constantly. It'll just change once, okay? Because if it changed every single time, then it would always, we don't want Terraform to trigger every time, right? So this says resources completed, 2 are done. So it says that it created an AWS. Let's go take a look to our buckets. And let's see if it made it. What was the name of it? I don't even know. The random bucket name is YKV. Starts with that. So in here, we should have one. We'll refresh here. YKV. There is our new bucket. There it is. That's great. And so that's all I really wanted to do. So let's go ahead and tear down that bucket. So we'll say Terraform destroy. Okay. And we'll do that there. And so that is going to be used to destroy the bucket. And we'll say yes. And that will remove it. We'll go and check if it's gone. Okay, we'll refresh. And that bucket is now gone. Okay, so we'll go back to our documentation. Really all we learned about here, like we talked a lot about AWS. If you want to document that, you can. I only want to document about Terraform here. So we'll go down below here and look for the Terraform apply. So here, 1, 2, 3, 4. This should be 4 as well. I don't know why that's not 4. That one should be 4 as well. I think they should be 4. Maybe they're not. We'll fix that later if that's a problem. It's hard when the file starts to get big like this. Terraform destroy. So this will destroy resources. Right? This will destroy resources. I think it's pretty straightforward, right? You can also use the auto approve flag to skip the approve prompt, e.g. Terraform, apply, auto approve. Please don't write just what I write. Write what's going to make sense for you so you can remember it's your notes so that you can go back and look at them. But make sure you do a good job when you write your notes. So we did a Terraform destroy here. We did a bunch of stuff with AWS specific stuff, but that's not something that I want to commit here. But yeah, we want to tear that down. We'll go back over here and take a look at the state file. And inside of this, we should really have nothing because we teared down everything. That's the old state file, so there should be nothing in it. There's no resources. That's good. And the major reason why is we want to tear stuff down is that if we were to commit this code and launch this project up, we would have an S3 bucket that is no longer being managed by state. We might need to re-import it, which I really don't want to do. But anyway, we'll take a look here and just double check. Oh, right. We don't want to commit this. We don't want to commit this. So we'll go here. That's why you got to review this stuff, right? Do not commit this. You'll be in big, big trouble if you do. So we'll go ahead and save that and double check. Always walk through your files before you commit them. Let's go here. Did we remove that? I think we did. Close this out. I have to add that back there. Sorry. Whoops. So we'll check our lock file. That's fine. Main TF. Remember that we set it in here. Make sure it's not in there. Okay. Check our README. Good. All good. All good. So just double check, triple check. Make sure you're not committing any of your credentials. And this is number 11, right? So we'll go here and say 11, create an S3 bucket, and we'll say, sorry, install Terraform provider. Create S3 bucket. Okay, so we'll do that. We'll commit that. We'll sync those changes. We're going to go back over here. We'll go look at our issue, and we'll have fun checking things off. So we did that. 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 We also did a Terraform. Terraform apply and Terraform destroy. Okay, but one thing you might want to point out in your documentation, you might say, hey, when we were trying to create the S3 bucket, we found out that we had to use lower cases and change that. So I'm saying that out loud, even though I didn't write in the documentation. I want you to go do that, because the idea is that you're trying to show where you had friction or difficulties and document them for you or the next person, so you don't run into those problems, because it's very easy to look up what Terraform plan is, Terraform apply, destroy. But what's not so easy is to understand those little parts where we're like, oh, we got this wrong, so we'll go back and fix it. So that's what I want to leave for you for homework in this video. But let's go and finish off doing our commits here. So we want to make a pull request. We're going to create a new pull request. We're going to drop this down, go to 11, and we're going to go to main. We'll go ahead and create this pull request. We already know what we did here. We'll create it. By the way, we can review it before we do anything else. That's another thing that you should do. You should see the files changed. This is another opportunity for you to double check. Make sure that you have not committed that file. If somebody else is reviewing your stuff, that's what they're going to do. They're going to go here and double check. We'll go back over to our pull requests. We're going to go ahead and squash and merge. That's going to go over to there. We're going to go here, say git checkout main, git pull, git clear, or sorry, just clear. And we're going to tag this. We want this to be, what do we want? 060? 060. So we'll go here and do 060, git push tags. Okay, we'll go back over here and we'll check our tags, refresh. We are in good shape. Great. Okay, stop your environment, save those credits. We'll see you in the next one. Ciao.